Every moment you are awake, your brain is flooded with sensory information: light, sound, touch, motion. Yet neuroscientists now believe that much of what you experience isn't direct reality at all. Instead, your brain is constantly generating predictions about what should be happening and then comparing incoming data to those predictions. This idea lies at the heart of the predictive mind paradox. Are we actually experiencing the present moment, or just our brain's best guess about it, based on prior expectations? So, what does it mean to say the mind is predictive? According to the predictive coding theory in neuroscience, the brain functions more like a forecasting machine than a passive receiver. It builds internal models of the world based on experience, then uses these models to generate predictions about incoming sensory data. For example, when you look at a face, your brain doesn't process every pixel from scratch. It anticipates where the eyes, nose, and mouth should be, and quickly fills in details. The actual sensory input is used to confirm or correct these guesses. When the input matches the prediction, your brain uses minimal energy. When there's a mismatch, called a prediction error, the brain updates the model to improve future predictions. You might ask, but don't we live in the present moment? Surprisingly, no, not in the way we think. It takes time for sensory information to reach the brain and be processed. Visual data, for example, travels from the retina through multiple stages before you're aware of what you're seeing. This takes roughly 100–200 milliseconds, which means your brain is always reacting to what just happened, not what's happening now. To compensate, it predicts the present using internal models to simulate what is probably happening in real time so that your conscious perception feels immediate. Is this just a theory? No. There's growing experimental evidence. In one study, researchers showed that when an expected image is flashed briefly on a screen, people are more likely to see it, even if it wasn't actually there. In another case, the brain's response to an unexpected stimulus is stronger because the prediction was violated. This is especially evident in how we process language, music, and motion. Our brains are constantly looking for patterns, and most of what we perceive is shaped by those expectations. Could this mean we are hallucinating reality? In a sense, yes, but not in the pathological sense. One neuroscientist, Anil Seth, famously described consciousness as a controlled hallucination, where your brain continuously guesses what's out there and updates the guess based on evidence. When the guesses are accurate, reality feels stable. When they are off, due to illness, fatigue, or altered states, the hallucination diverges from reality, even in normal life. Your perceptions are less a mirror of the world and more a map your brain creates on the fly. Why is this called a paradox? Because it challenges our basic assumptions about experience. We believe we are sensing the world directly, but in fact, we are mostly sensing our own expectations. The paradox is that in order to survive and act quickly, our brains must sacrifice truth for speed and efficiency. What we call the present is really a prediction-corrected echo of the recent past, and our sense of now is constantly being adjusted, filtered, and refined, just fast enough to feel real. Does this have any benefits? Absolutely. Predictive processing allows us to react faster, filter out noise, and focus attention. It's also the reason why practice and familiarity improve perception. Musicians hear nuances in music that non-musicians don't. Athletes anticipate motion before it happens, and readers guess the end of a sentence before seeing it. These are not guesses in the conscious sense, but automatic, subconscious predictions that shape what we experience. The brain is thought to implement perception via hierarchical predictive coding, where higher cortical areas continuously generate predictions of incoming sensory input. Prediction errors, best matches between expected and actual input, are propagated upward to update internal models. This bidirectional exchange enables rapid inference by minimizing surprise rather than passively registering all raw signals. Physiological evidence comes from mismatched negativity responses in EEG, reflecting prediction error signaling. Consequently, conscious experience may reflect the brain's best guess rather than the raw present. When listening to a repeating tone sequence, deviant tones elicit a pronounced e.g. mismatch negativity within 100 EMs, indicating predictive error processing. It's like a GPS that continuously predicts your route, only correcting when you deviate. So your position on the map is always an informed estimate. Sensory transduction and neural transmission introduce delays of tens to hundreds of milliseconds before stimuli reach conscious awareness. To compensate, the brain predicts future states of sensory events, effectively backdating perception to align experience with real-world timing. Experiments in flash lag and apparent motion illusions show that our perceptual system anticipates moving objects' positions ahead of their physical location. This predictive temporal binding suggests we never perceive the immediate present, but a constructed moment that integrates prediction and delayed input. In the flash lag illusion, a moving object appears ahead of a simultaneously flashed stationary one, reflecting predictive compensation for neural latency. It's like watching a live TV broadcast with a built-in half-second buffer. You always see slightly ahead of real time. Perception can be formalized as Bayesian inference, where the brain combines prior beliefs, predictions, with sensory evidence to compute posterior estimates of the world. Priors represent statistical regularities from past experience, biasing perception toward expected scenarios. When sensory evidence is noisy or ambiguous, priors dominate, leading to perceptual biases such as seeing faces in random patterns. Pareidolia. Thus, conscious experience emerges from weighted predictions as much as from immediate input. The Bayesian framework captures why we sometimes hallucinate stabilized or context-consistent perceptions. In low-light conditions, ambiguous scenes are more likely to be interpreted as familiar shapes, demonstrating prior-driven perception. It's like reading a faded manuscript. You guess missing letters based on the language you know. Neuroimaging studies show that frontal and parietal regions generate top-down signals that modulate activity in sensory cortices even before stimulus onset. Layer-specific recordings in visual cortex reveal that deep layers convey predictions downward, while superficial layers signal prediction errors upward. Optogenetic disruption of these pathways in animal models impairs the ability to anticipate repetitive stimuli. These findings underscore that sensory areas are not mere input receivers, but active participants in hypothesis testing. What we see thus reflects ongoing predictive dynamics. fMRI experiments demonstrate increased pre-stimulus activity in visual cortex when subjects expect a particular image, even before it appears. It's like a theater crew adjusting stage lights in anticipation of the actor's entrance, not just reacting to footsteps. Eye movements are guided by predictions of where salient features will appear, optimizing visual sampling. Saccades often land on expected object locations rather than actual target positions if the target abruptly moves, illustrating predictive targeting. Microstimulation of frontal eye fields alters saccade landing positions in predictable ways, showing top-down expectation controls. The alignment of foveal vision with anticipated features underscores that what we consciously see is shaped by where we look based on predictions. Errors in prediction result in corrective saccades rather than instant perception of displacement. In target jump experiments, subject saccades initially land at the target's pre-jump location, revealing predictive motor planning. It's like throwing a ball to where you expect a friend to be, then adjusting your aim when they move unexpectedly. Perceptual illusions exploit the gap between prediction and reality, revealing the brain's reliance on internal models. The hollow face illusion, for instance, occurs because the brain's strong prior assumes faces are convex, so a concave mask is seen as a normal face. Similarly, color constancy phenomena show that perceived color remains stable despite changes in illumination, reflecting predictive normalization. These illusions demonstrate that perception is not veridical, but shaped by predictive expectations honed over evolutionary pressures. Studying these effects clarifies how predictions dominate conscious experience. Observers consistently perceive a concave mask of a face as a normal convex portrait under varied lighting, illustrating strong facial priors. It's like always assuming a doorknob is on the right side of a door because you've learned that's usually where it is. Attention selects which prediction errors should update internal models, allocating resources to surprising inputs. Neural markers such as the P300 component in EEG reflect the prioritization of unexpected stimuli. Predictive coding theories propose that attention arises from modulating the precision, confidence, of prediction errors in specific sensory channels. High-precision channels emphasize novel or behaviorally relevant deviations, shaping conscious awareness. Thus, attention and prediction jointly construct our experiential present. In an oddball paradigm, infrequent auditory tones evoke larger P300 IM amplitudes than standard tones, signaling heightened prediction error. It's like focusing a camera's autofocus on moving objects rather than stationary scenery. Some theories argue that conscious experience itself is the brain's highest level prediction, a global best guess integrating multisensory inputs. Under this view, qualia, our subjective sensations, reflect inferred causes rather than raw data. Disorders such as schizophrenia, characterized by aberrant prediction error signaling, illustrate how prediction dysregulation can distort reality. Meditation practices that disrupt habitual predictions can alter conscious content, further supporting this link. Thus, consciousness may be less about perceiving the world as it is, and more about experiencing the brain's inferential model. Individuals with schizophrenia often misattribute internal thoughts to external voices, reflecting impaired predictive distinctions. It's like living inside a story written by your mind, where plot twists arise from editing choices rather than objective events. So the predictive mind paradox raises the question, do we ever experience the unfiltered present, or only our brain's anticipatory constructions? If perception is always postdictive, then now is a retrospective inference combining prediction and delayed input. This challenges naive realism and invites discussion on the nature of time and consciousness. Some philosophers propose that subjective time emerges from predictive synchronization across brain regions. Empirical studies of temporal perception, such as the cutaneous rabbit illusion, support the idea that present experience is constructed. Ultimately, this paradox forces a reevaluation of what it means to live in the moment. In the cutaneous rabbit illusion, taps, delivered sequentially to different skin locations, are perceived as evenly spaced across the intervening area, showing retrospective time construction. It's like reading the last page of a novel first, and then reconstructing the story to make sense of the ending.